I don't enjoy being the bearer of bad news. I think some fools think I'm a little bit sick in the beanie, and I like bringing this kind of information to you, but I find no pleasure in it. I know that most people would like to see Stipe Miocic win. They want to see the good guy win. I'm seeing it in the comments. I'm seeing people try to fight back against the betting odds, and they want the underdog, which strangely, he has happened to be the underdog quite a few times in his career, even though he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. But I see people pulling for him. They want him to pull it off like Sean Strickland style. But this ain't Rudy. And that's why we watch movies, because we want that escape. Because we want to get that ending that we don't get in real life. We want those happy moments. But this ain't Field of Dreams, homie. Most of the time, real life ends like My Girl. And I know that most of my movie references are from the 90s, but you have Google at your fingertips. Have you seen that movie, My Girl, where she's like, where's his glasses? Somebody get his glasses. He can't see without his glasses. That's what real life is like. And it's fun to root for the fireman, and it's not acting. That fool plays a firefighter in real life. And in real life, Jon Jones is most likely the one starting the fire. But none of that matters when the cage door closes. And the way I see it, Stipe Miocic has no path to victory against Jon Jones. What he does have is what any fighter has against any other fighter, what we typically call that puncher's chance, whatever form that comes in. It doesn't actually literally have to be a punch, but whatever. It's like Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee could have a puncher's chance or whatever against like GSP. And that's the only way that he will win a match like that. Let's say GSP right in the middle of the third round, he has to sneeze real bad. And then boom, Kevin Lee knocks him out. That's the only kind of shot Stipe has against Jon Jones. The same kind of chance that Kevin Lee would have against GSP. That type of situation. And don't get it twisted. I know a lot of time when viewers see somebody saying this one's gonna win, this one's gonna lose, that they think, oh, you're a hater. You don't like that fool. You're hating on that fool. You're jealous of. No, I'm a Stipe Miocic fan. It's one of the things I've talked about most on this channel over the years, how I was having a hard time picking between Stipe and DC. Of course, ultimately, I went with DC, but that has nothing to do with the narrative right here. I'm just saying it was a rough time because I'm a fan of both of them. And it doesn't have anything to do with ring rust. I know that's a little bit of the story right now. He hasn't fought in 2 years. Well, that's not a big deal because Jon Jones didn't fight in over 3 years when he came back and destroyed Serial Gang. And you could be like, well, look at Stipe's last fight against Francis. Well, look at Jon Jones's last fight against Reyes. Like the most obvious, like that's the one, if anything. There's fights that people think Jones lost, like Gustafsson, Reyes obviously is the most obvious one. Santos, Smith, he basically lost to Smith. But Smith was like, nah, let's not have him lose. I don't want to win like that. And he should have took it. Now that I think about it, I don't even know if Jones fans believe that he beat Reyes. I think that's just kind of like a overall everybody. I think if anything is like a moral loss, at least. Like even if on paper, if on Wikipedia he won, like that was definitely a moral loss. But that could just be left out of the equation. I don't think that has to have anything to do with it because I feel like, and you could do the research, I did a little bit before this video, I feel like most of the time it's been proven that there is no such thing as ring rust than proof that there is. And I know every time that someone takes a long time off and they come back, everyone's like ring rust. So it seems like a big thing, but when you actually look at it fight by fight, event by event, and look at different people's careers, I think there's more evidence showing that there is no such thing. What I do think is worth considering is I was reading an article and Stipe was talking about his training camp. And he said like, yeah, there's some bumps and there's some bruises, but it's training camp. That's what happens. And I was thinking like, I wonder if that's like a really calm, like mellow, like I don't want to be dramatic way of saying, I'm kind of injured right now. Like when you have the biggest fight of your life coming up in a couple months and you have this platform and people asking you questions, you could say anything. You could, promote this and plug that. I'm feeling good and I'm working on this. And what you choose to say is, there's some bumps and bruises along the way. That's not a great sign. That's like if you're on vacation at this beautiful place and there's all this touristy thing and all this great food and all these sights and all these activities and all these things to partake in. And someone's like, how are you enjoying yourself? You're like, I got a little bit of diarrhea, but you know, that happens. I just think it's a weird thing to talk about, especially if you're putting money on it or whatever. Like, I think it's something worth spending some time on thinking about. Like, why is this fool talking about getting injured right now? Something else to consider is that it seems like what's being put out there is that win or lose, Stipe is going to retire after this. And you already know Dana hates that. Just right off the beanie, a couple of them I could think of is like when GSP did that, when Henry Cejudo did that, and Dana's like, man, you guys are making the organization look bad. You just want to take the belt and run. Now I got to figure this out. And then when we do get a champion, it's going to look like they're not even the real champion because you were the champion. And it's like, now who's just going to go into that position? I don't know if Stipe put it out there or other people running their mouths or what, but it's just a bad story to have out there. Either way, I'm going to leave. Even if I win, I'm going to leave. That way, if it goes to decision, and there's any kind of potential sketchiness or whatever, especially under that new TKO umbrella with the WWE and stuff and all the legalities changing and stuff, and now it's straight up entertainment, you never know what's gonna happen. But you know what did happen, what we all do know happened? Jon Jones signed a new contract. He signed a new deal this year for 8 more fights. So if it goes to decision and there's any opportunity for any kind of shenanigans to go on, you got one fighter that's like, I'm gonna retire anywhere. I don't even care. I'm just gonna leave the organization hanging. I'm gonna prove what I have to do. Then I'm gonna dip. You have the other fighter. Yeah, I said finer. You have the other fighter. Yeah, I'm gonna do 8 more fights. I'm gonna stick around for the long haul. And remember, this is the same dude, Stipe Miocic. This is the same dude that's been beefing with Dana White. He didn't even want him to put the belt on him when he beat Francis Ngannou when they fought the first time. There's drama there. That's something that people can't forget about. There's a lot of weird, unclear things happening there when you get someone like WWE and the UFC merging. Now it's so weird. And you know, there's that thing that's been out there for years that Dana White got stuck in his head from Vince McMahon. You can't make superstars when you can't control the outcome. You gotta have like a grasp on things. You gotta be able to manipulate things. And Dana's like, it's all about that money. It's all about that money. He's a businessman. Can't hate on it too much. We're all trying to get that paper. At the end of the day, even at the beginning of the day, I mean, it never stops. And I know that Jones doesn't have the best, most perfect relationship with Dana White. They got like Stipe Miocic and Dana White are pretty much like, we'll do business together, but I can't stand you. And neither of them are trying to hide that. But with Jon Jones and Dana White, it's more of a love-hate. It's a thin line with them between love and hate. And we've seen them go back and forth. And Jones, you know, with all the stuff that he does outside the cage and whatnot, when it comes to trying to make that money and being a businessman, like he'll cut deals with you. He'll listen to reason when it comes to that paper. Stipe Miocic, I think, has more of a like, I'm gonna stand my ground, I'm gonna hold on to my principles. I think you're a slimy, sketchy dude. I don't even want you to put that belt on me. Where Jon Jones is like, wait, how much did you say? Yeah, okay, Uncle Dana, I like that. So just to get into some of the actual fight details here, I've watched every single one of Jon Jones's fights at least a couple times when I was doing breakdowns for him. And something that I've noticed is he's one of the best ever at cutting off the cage. While on the other hand, ironically, and quite unfortunately for Stipe, when I watch his fights, it seems like he gets the cage cut off on him quite a bit. It's just a bad mixture. In Stipe's third fight with DC, Stipe was on the cage in every single round. Some rounds, multiple times. And, you know, I'm not trying to hate on my guy DC, you know, but you get on the cage with Jon Jones, it's going to be a different kind of story. He's going to choke you out against the cage, or he's going to use it to trip you and get you down and TKO you. It's going to be over much quicker if you get in that position with Jon Jones. And he was there every single round with DC. And if Stipe is able to stay on his feet and away from the cage, he's still going toe to broken toe with one of the greatest, highest fight IQs of all time. And that's another bad mixture because yes, Stipe has a good fight IQ. He wouldn't have got as far as he did if he didn't have one. But something else I noticed about Stipe, especially I don't know why. I don't know if there was bad blood or what, but especially, I think it started with the first Francis fight. Because I was going to say, in all 3 of his fights with DC and his last fight with Ngannou, he fought very emotional, very reactionary. But now that I think about it, in real time, right here in front of the camera, wishing that I had thought about it beforehand so I could have had my thoughts formulated much better. I think it happened in his first fight with Ngannou because he was so mad at Dana and he was so mad at the UFC that they were saying that he's basically fighting a Ford truck and this other dude was so strong and he was like a superhero and he was a machine and he was gonna kill him. I think that's where things kind of took a turn for Stipe and he started thinking and acting and fighting differently. So you have him in there and there's quite a bit of footage. There's quite a bit of fight time that you could observe of Stipe Miocic, and he's fighting very emotional. He's going in there trying to finish when it's probably not a good idea to do so, thinking he has people hurt and trying to capitalize, trying to overcommit. He's just taking these chances in these windows where maybe he could have lasted longer and did better with some more composure. Where Jon Jones, I don't think I've ever seen him fight. That fool fights like a serial killer. He's just so cold and calm and just so matter of fact when he's fighting. I don't think Jon Jones has ever fought with any kind of emotion, at least not in the octagon. Also, something that I noticed, and I'm not saying this is the only thing, that would be quite foolish. I'm just saying some people might have taken notice on his last fight with Ngannou. Stipe threw and Francis threw at the same time, but Ngannou landed. Now, some people, I mean, it's at least worth taking into consideration. You know, you can't say that's the only thing that it was, but they threw at the same time and Ngannou landed. Now, it might have to do with one of them was throwing a little straight or whatever, but Stipe has an 80-inch reach. Ngannou has an 83-inch reach. So some people, especially like big Stipe fans, could be like, if only his reach was 3 inches longer, he would have got there first. And he would have, you know, if he wouldn't have dropped Ngannou, at least he would have held them off further back. I'm saying all this to say that happened with Stipe and Francis, and Jones's reach is even longer. Jones has the 84.5-inch reach. So if Stipe goes in there with that same kind of mentality, that same kind of counterpunching, reactionary, overcommitting type of mentality, now he's facing someone with the even high. I mean, let's compare Jones's IQ to Ngannou's IQ. I mean, with all disrespect. I mean, let's just be honest right here. But then on top of that, you add another 1.5 inches of reach. It's not a good day for Muchacho. And then you always got that variable of the eye poke, which was such a big deal in the storyline with DC and Stipe. And I think he got hurt so badly. I think it was between the second and third fights. Stipe's eye was hurt. First of all, I think there was a little narrative that he might never fight again. It was so bad. And that's when he went through his little model phase because he got those glasses and then he started feeling himself. He's like, I look kind of good in these glasses. Then he started putting a bunch of hair gel and all that. He went like that Luke Rockhold route for a little bit. And then finally he came back, but still it was like very much in his head. The eye thing was a big deal and played a huge role in a lot of the things that happened. It was even so much in his head that he went back and messed up DC's eye. And DC was all like this. And the last fight was messed up. They should have did something about it. Mark, not so Goddard. They didn't handle that situation correctly, but what I'm saying is now you got Jon Jones in there. The guy, like, I mean, if he's in a video game, one of the buttons is the finger poke. Like, that's one of his go-tos, and you're putting that up against Stipe Miocic. He's gonna be in there with the threat in his mind the whole time. Man, this guy's probably gonna poke me in the eye. He's gonna overthink about it, and that's gonna mess him up. If Stipe wins, I'm gonna be happy for him. And you know, and the good guy won, you know, it's gonna feel good, like the whole Strickland kind of thing. And I'm not saying that to try to play both sides. I'll still make it clear that I'm saying my prediction is Jones. So I want to put that in stone right now. I'm just saying I'll be happy for Stipe if he wins. I'm not trying to hate on it. And somehow the biggest victim in all of this is DC. His arch nemesis, biggest rival and everything. The dude that basically ruined his life and beat him a couple times is now gonna beat the dude that beat him a couple times last and ruin the end of his championship run. And DC's gonna have to interview him, have a big old cheeser on his face. You should stink palm that microphone, DC.